זוכר, הייתי אצלך לפני איזה חודשיים, והוא היה שם, הוא לקח אותי הביתה. אז אמר, שאלתי אותו, what's happening with dating? Maybe I'm going out to the girl. He said, that's the right girl, she's going to marry her. הוא צלצל אליי היום בבוקר, הוא אומר לי, that's the girl he told me. Hashem, sometimes put in your mouth thing, you don't know what you're saying.
Wow. סתם אותך קרסי, אז עדיין, כבר חבל עם בייס מנחם, I go back, should I continue to say something about the ברוכו? Thank you. No, אתה אורח. And go back, you have to go back to regular one. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
It wasn't valued, it was just like that. אתה לא גר פה, אתה לא נמצא.
This is Brickland, just told me Debbie Brickland. They decided
go back to
slave rig to sit on East 21st Street on Friday.
I got him off guard, I guess.
So people don't have to sleep in Manhattan.
Theoretically,
You went into the... I see
understand.
What?
There's like a Bezdin Shtibel in the Kachabad, right?
No,
I was told just now Friday. I don't know about this.
One of the... I know what you're talking about. No, I didn't win.
No?
No.
Give me
I don't know about Thursday, but so you
What's his name?
are you going to Gabe tomorrow morning?
The knack.
Mm-hmm.
No comments. Just okay. Thank you.
Was finished one, yeah. Finished that. And Rashi says in the beginning of Parashas Noach, Yesh Rabbeinu Dorishim Ushvach, Yesh Dorishim Lagnai. Come on, Shmuel, you always say this word.
It starts with Shevach.
Yeah. So beget avort Yash. If you have mashke, mit Rabbeinu, if you're taking it from the Rebbe's, Slashvach, it'll be good. But regular Yash, you go into a liquor store and you're just drinking as a yain sort of. That's lignai. That's not good.
That's a good one. I love it.
That's good. I like it. Good. So I'm just going. Tonight is usually there's a sugya. I'm going back to a few things that we did in the summer. This is an akuda which stayed by me at Tzorechiyum. And today I looked into it and I think have an answer. So I'm revisiting a sugya that I had at Tzorechiyum now. I want to go first to a story. A couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, in Israel there was a little bit of around the grape juice.
How much water in the grape juice?
How much water could be in the grape juice? Now, this gives a hersher. And there's 17% wine. And the rest is water.
Not 50%, but only 17%?
Yeah.
Wow.
17%. 17% is concentrate of grape juice, and the rest is water. Bavad Yosef had a problem with that.
It could be a shackle. That's a shackle, Rabbi. How could it be a goffin?
The other Charedes wrote a tshuva, the Minchas Yitzchak. They holds that it's wine, it's very pretty goffin, it's good for Kiddush and Abdullah, and the Baruch is very pretty goffin. Bavad Yosef don't like that. So he says, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef writes in his in a sefer Ein Yitzchak, Kabbalas Heiros Moron, Kasher bikarnu be'echad hayekavim k'dei lamed al kamus hayayin. Amar lanu hamashgiach harav Agon harav Slonim shlita. Dehechen matzonu b'divrei Moron shim yesh roiv mayim ein lavorach hagofen. Who told or he said? So he said Amarnu loy. So Rabbi Bavad Yosef said, Harei Maran Koisa, we'll read it soon inside. That the Beis Yosef writes that that every place you have to go. What the minig is, Bizman Einu Harei Boreretz Aroiva Oilam, Ein Regilus Limzig Yaim Bekol Kachar B'Mayim. Ubavada loy b'shir sharei mayim ve'eshiv. The Mashgiach said, "Ma'acha shabadatz eida charedis yiten hechsher v'yishtu mimenu roiv charedim yeh bebchines mokim shenoigim limzer."
They make the minig,
The eida charedis is going to make the midden.
the minig.
Bavad Yosef didn't buy that.
He's right.
He's right. For sure, he's right. Hello, shein dvarim nachoin. The minik doesn't become from the Eida Charedis, even though they're Bezdin Tzedek L'chol Makehelos Ashkenazim. That's the way it's written on the
That's
yeah. Even though they write that we're Badatz L'chol Makehelos Ashkenazim, so they're self-proclaimed.
only for the Ashkenazi.
But he says it's not true. Kayim Rebbe Olam Einam Regilim Limzig Yaim Beroiv Mayim. ומה שכוסף בתודס ההכשר שיין זה כושר גם לדס על בית יוסף, אינו נוח. ובאחד היקבים שיש ההכשר מהבד"ץ, ליסס שנויסים 57% יין, ויסר מים, so l'chayr is not bad. But he said, but 57% wine. This was wine already, not grape juice. And he said it is not true because Tzeva Chashev kama asukar loikeach mekamusayim v'kama mayim moizgim beis hakidush. He said it's not so posh. Okay.
Especially it's probably like it, the dafka with water.
Okay. So
50% minus whatever.
I touched a little bit on it right before Rosh Hashanah, and I said today I had Psatzorachin that stayed in my mind. I was Mayashiv today, so I want to go back to it. So Demis is first. I want to masakin what I said then. So again, the Eida Charedis then is still Adayom. They're sticking by their guns that the derech that they have the right to make the policy. What's the derech of how much it is?
They make any money from it? From
Sure.
the policy?
Sure, they get. Well, sure, they get. What do you think? What do you think? They get paid for the
Does the
help.
winery pay them?
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. The winery repays them. No question. What do you think? No, obviously, that's not chas v'shom. They're lining their pockets, and it's not chas v'shom. I'm not suspecting that Rabbi Yitzchak Weiser Chayna Levrocha was lining his pockets with some shekels.
Yeah, for that thing.
Yeah, they pay mashgiach. But look, first of all, the Eida Charedis Hechsher today is the most popular Hechsher in Eretz Yisrael. From the most popular Hechsherim. It is a big business. Don't kid yourself. Just like in America, the OU, it's a big business, very, very big business. But still, I don't think that I'm not an institution like the Eida Charedis. I believe, obviously, I eat the Hechsherim, and I believe that they're doing l'shem shemayim. They're getting paid for this for sure. I think the Minchas Yitzhak really thought that he was right, but Rabbi Ovadia Yosef said that this is ridiculous. I think I'm going to summarize what I said last time, and then what was in Schadish. I think the truth is between. I think Rabbi Ovadia Yosef is right. Eida Charedis can't be koveya. What's the derech of the meziga of Mayim versus Yain? The question is what's going on in the whole Yerushalayim, what's going on in the whole Israel, what's going on in the whole world. They're not the ones to be koveya.
Each winery is different.
So we have to look what's the average. But the Eida Charedis is not the one to decide what's the derech. On the other hand, I think I don't understand what Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was so worked up about. On the other hand, I'll tell you who is koveya. Mr. George Welch. There was a doctor that discovered how to make grape juice because grapes right away ferment. The sugar becomes alcohol. So this guy who had a clinic and he was trying to make healthy drinks, he figured out how to make grape juice. He quickly figured out that instead of being a doctor and having a clinic, he'll be making much more money by making a drink company called Welch, which is a Welch company, is the strongest grape juice company. The Dr. Kellogg's was the same thing, exactly. Mr. Kellogg's was the same thing. He figured out, make much more money instead of being a doctor, making morning cereals. Mr. Kellogg is exactly the same like George Welch.
He was a doctor too?
He was also a doctor, yeah. Dr. Kellogg was his
Well, his father wasn't.
It's a very similar story. So
maybe by what Yosef had is because we are starting always put water. So now
No.
17%.
Okay.
of this. So
He was
for sure-
saying, the Eidach Rebbe says, no, our minigas, we put a lot of water. But because we give the hechsher, Zechariah, that's the derech. He's right. What do you mean you gave the hechsher? That's the derech. That's not the okay. It doesn't, it's narishkeit. On the other hand, he was saying that no, it has to be, he was saying we can't, so I'm saying the truth is really mamish in between. You have to look really at George Welch. What does George Welch do? So as much research, it's very hard to get real information because they feed information online. You go online and they give you beautiful 15 minutes and you can see in the company how they make.
Call you though.
Huh?
Call you, they'll tell you.
A lot of they'll tell you. I have to take a call. A big lav dafka, they'll tell you. First, you have to find the person that Bemis knows. If there's one person that knows the answer, so Moshe Zuchmich to find that person.
What were you saying? I missed
then
that. What did
The
you say?
OU knows. There's one man in OU that knows the answer. Not every person working in the institution knows. There's 1-2 people that know the answer. And then
The elephant probably knows.
love Afghan. And then as you want to share the information. But the emphasis is attack important. I should try. I shouldn't be assuming. Okay. So what seemed to me is that it's what they do is it's 15% grape juice.
Well,
1.5. Yeah, 1.5. That's it.
15?
1.5.
That's
Yeah.
delicious. That's
What makes
So-
it delicious.
So why? Because you have to understand, they want to ship all around the world. They figured out how to condense it.
syrup.
Mamish, it's syrup. You can't drink it. Rekez, it's called in Hebrew. Rekez mitzanavim.
4%.
Impossible to drink it. Rekez mitzanavim, and they fill it up in huge tanks. Yeah, and they send it all over the world. The factories got the factory in Malaysia and China, in Israel, all over the world. They get these things, which is down to 15%, and then they dilute it. They put in another 85% water, local water. They mix it well, and they bottle it, and they send it out to the stores.
It's like fountain drinks. Every drink in this.
Yeah. Right.
Not the regular one. They use what's called, I think, filtered water.
Whatever they figured out which water they use, but they can't, because otherwise they have to send on boats all
Forget
around
it.
the world.
So it's $100
Forget it.
bottle.
It doesn't. So okay, so that's what they do. That's what they do. Okay, so I would say
Kedem do it himself?
Kedem does it. Yeah, Kedem does. They make their own. Yeah, they figured out how to make grape juice. They make the really mamish.
And it says in it,
One of the best
Goy
grape
people
juice in the world.
to-
How do you know that? Because
Zoleh.
Goyim are buying it, and
Right.
then now they broke into the Israeli market. When you go to Israel, they're selling it in Israel.
Yeah.
So if they're selling it in Israel, I mean, that's kedai to ship it from.
There's enough Americans there.
Funny.
No,
There's enough Americans there to buy.
the same way like we have over here.
I think Israelis are buying it
Oh,
too.
they started to buy it now.
I-
When I was
I-
there, they were drinking this sweet.
No, it's
No,
terrible.
but they
have
like to mix it with water. They make the drink with
right.
the same way like you go over here and you see a shell.
No, but I see now. Right.
So the reverse now.
Now it's
in
happening
Yerushalayim,
reverse.
You have ketchup and mayonnaise and all this stuff that we like over here.
American.
They sell it in Yerushalayim. Same thing.
Right.
You
Became
know why?
reverse.
Because a lot of Americans, they don't eat the
What I'm
ketchup
saying,
from
the
there.
same thing we
They don't
are
eat the
buying
mayo
over here.
from there.
So,
Right.
like this guy in the ballpark, what is the Temani? He sell all the stuff from Eretz
Zion.
Zion. The same thing you have in Yerushalayim now.
Right.
Reverse. Exactly the same.
Right. So.
And deodorant. They started selling deodorant. They're saying $8, I think. Well,
Without smell.
Yeah.
Without smell, yeah.
Okay. So I would say you have to go with lunch. I'll tell you why the Bavad Yosef didn't think this way. One way of looking is to say that all wines are the same thing. Wine is wine is wine is wine. Another way of looking is white wine, red wine, French wine, grape juice. It's a different. When the Shulchan Aruch says, this comes originally from the Ben Yonah, the first Mishnah mentions it, that says, and the Gron out, they both bring a rye from a Beferish Gemara, Yain Ashironi, that they say there's a weak type of wine. So that when the Shulchan Aruch says that it depends in every country, the derech of how much they mix water and wine. So probably in a Bavad Yosef's mind, he wasn't machalik between grape juice, white wine, red wine. I would say you have to be machalik. If the derech is, and I'll give you a raya. We see in Europe for many years, Jews couldn't afford to buy wine.
Expensive.
It was very expensive because in Eastern Europe, they didn't grow grapes. So exactly climate to us. So they could ship from Tzimukim. They could ship. So they'd make yain tzimukim. They'd make yain tzimukim, raisin wine. And they have all the Shalos of Chuvas talk about it. What's the right amount? No one ever said, well, what's not our derech to mix wine and water? Is the mashma because yain tzimukim is a different type of thing. Emes, there is a machloikis and there's a tshuva in the Chacham Tzvi where he brings in the Marid that the Marid says that the water in the grapes is toisis. It's like it's a different thing. It becomes alcohol, and you could even put more. You could put 10 times water for the grape.
Is gezi.
Yeah. So, but the Chacham Tzvi disagrees. He says you look at the grapes like grapes. It's like mixing wine and water, but still
not like champagne.
Right. It's like mixing wine and water. So Taka, I'm saying. So if you hold like the Chacham Tzvi. But still, why didn't Chacham Tzvi say? But it's not our minhag that we mix this because the Shulchan Aruch says yain shalanu rafim. No, because by yain tzimukim it's our minhag. So you see, there is regular yain and there's yain tzimukim. The same thing here. There is regular yain and there's grape juice. So by grape juice, there is the minhag that all the companies in the world, they mix water. And when they write 100% natural, is they're allowed to write it because they take out the amount of water from the rekes and they're putting it back, and that's why they're allowed to write 100%, no additives. No, it's not true. It is because in their mind scientifically,
but the paper is right.
Right, but al pi halacha, the Metzias says that really it's 1.15, 15%. No, so the kosher companies are trying to make it a little more. They make 17%. Or
1/5 is 20%.
No, because they want to have echad meshisha, 1-6. So they put 17%. They put 17%. But
you just said it's called, the exact terminology is called reconstituted.
Right. Right. They reconstitute the thing. So this is the summary.
What's the 17% number better than?
Because it's echad 1-6. Once it already gets to 1-6, we'll learn in a minute. Shulchan Aruch, we say that already forget about it. So they want it should be better than one is. Yeah. So that 70% is about
1% more. So
Even the Dr. Walsh does it at 15%.
Yeah, so they're giving a little more grape juice here. I don't know if they really put maybe or what they do is they put 15% concentrate, and then they put in a little bit plain grape juice or whatever. They put in 17%.
But the FDA check this. They have 17 or 15.
Yeah.
Mashkiach check.
Yeah, well, the mashkiach has to check for the hechsher. The FDA, I would assume that you cannot allowed to do false advertising.
It's very, very strict.
I don't know if it's the FDA or it's the
health department.
Or it's the health
department. You cannot write
department.
on the bottle something and it's not there.
Right. You have to say the MS of what
they
it is.
take it to a laboratory and make tests.
Yeah. Okay, so this is just a summary of basically of what I think, and therefore I think it's no different. Sfardi Ashkenazi, it's the same thing. I think grape juice, but
Maybe it depends
According
on
to
the
what
grapes.
you said,
Maybe it depends on the grapes. So in Israel, like the grape juice is not good grape juice. It's not like the American quality New York has them, whatever they're using.
I'm being mashmed midas. It could be you have to be machmir. You're saying fakir.
Right.
But I would say
It is depend. Maybe
right,
if
if
it's
it's-
right.
because you see, I'm talking about Israeli grapes,
Israeli grapes.
and the Israeli grapes are they're not the
Schwachenmeister.
Schwache
Very,
Meisters.
very sweet.
It's a wine. It's
It's a different type of grapes. It's good for wine.
It's למעליות, not לחיסרון.
It's lamaluta for wine and the greyusa for grapes. New York grapes, you can't make wine from it. You could stay enough in cup. You make those disgusting wines. And for grape juice, it's good.
It's sweet. It's content.
Yeah,
If you make from tzimukim, you have to write down it's tzimukim.
yeah, for
You
sure.
have to, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't he also say it in
Oh, very, very much.
Russia used
He
to make
made
it,
with simukim.
and he used to go drunk from 2 cups and not
No, that was something else. That was my grandmother. They had wine. They had wine. They talk had wine.
They make it from simukim.
No, not smoking. They made it from grapes.
How they get grapes in Russia?
They brought from Romania. They brought
One if Hungary. Is Hungary a place where they make wine?
Hungary. Yeah,
Oh, my
The-
mother-in-law came.
Hungarian Jews had wine.
Yeah.
Hungarian Jews
had a winery.
Hungarian Jews had wine. That they dafka had wine. They were the only ones, Eastern European Jew communities, that actually had wine.
That made wine.
Near Paris, there those wineries.
Yeah. They had the Hungarian Jews had wine. Them had was essen. They were different. They were not starving like the Eden in Lita. That was a different. It's a different situation. Okay, Siman Eish Dalet. I said now we'll get into another issue. I mean, another issue,
Shmorei.
same issue, but it's Shmorei Yain. If you eat shmorim, you make better pregofen. Nothing mayim.
What's Shmorei?
Shmorim is like those little pieces that fall in the barrel. Little pieces. Me and you
at
don't.
the bottom of the wine.
Yes. Yeah.
Sediments.
They when we buy a bottle, they already sifted,
Right,
filtered.
right,
It's
yes.
clean. Shmorei Yain mevorchen by pregofen. Nothing mayim. Nothing shalosh midas mayim matzah arba. He put in 3 cups of water, and he found altogether now he has 4 cups of liquid. Have it like a yain mazug. It's like mixing 1 cup of wine and 3 cups of water. It's time a sharpness. Okay, that's a din. Now Machabes says second makuda. I knew this din is beyena shalahem shechazakim. Those in the wines in the shas that were very strong. Our wines and that are not so strong. Even if he puts 3 and it comes now 4. That's our wines are not chazakim. You have to look what's the sheet of how much they do meziga of yain in that place. Says the Ramah that it can't be that the yayin is outnumbered by 6 measurements of water. So if you did 1 cup of wine and 6 of water, even if that's a derech hamok, forget about it. Because vade bottle. The Gross says like this. What's the raya for Shulchan Aruch? Shom Tanakama. It's a Gemara Baba Basra. Kamashkos of Rabbe. Rabbi Yosef, Pirish Ramam Vatur, Vishaposkim, the Reish Ramam Tlos of Os Arba, Dafke, Vachemash Pirish Rashbam, the Sov de Masa Poshul, Vachat Palga. That the Gemara is saying that it's a Gemara Babasa basically. That the Ramam Tlos of Os Arba, that when you have 1 cup to 3, 1 cup of wine to 3 of water, it's kosher v'yosher. Even though we said that if you mix water and wine, if you put for 1 cup of wine 6 water, it's ois yain nesach, hosam yain gomor. Over there is talking about yain, and Shenkin the Gemara Babas is talking about shmon. Lomda mahoda voidazora pedikation koises. This is shekosav ago belavad v'koy yain gomor. There's a Pella Otzum that is a Shuvat Tzemach Tzedek. He must have not seen this Gra, and he figured out the same exact thing. And then he says at the end, there's a different Ben Yonah that said that our wines is different. So he says, "Kamashkosa bereish perek ches teshabes yain hashironi lechud." The Gemara says that there's a thing called yain hashironi, that the yain from the Sharon, and it's a shvacha wine. It's a very weak wine. You can put less water there.
Go back a second. You said yain gummo. That's concentrated wine that they had years ago?
No, but he said, no, the Gemara says that when the Gemara said 1 cup for 3 cups, it was talking about shmorim, sediments. But when the Shulchan Aruch said 1 cup for 6 cups, and it's talking about yain nesach, it's talking about wine. So he's saying a chiddush, that when you're talking about mixing water and shmorim, it's 1 to 3. And when you're talking about wine, it's 1 to 6. Because wine is more valuable than the shmorim. So shmorim, if you're going to mix, the ratio is 1 to 3. If you have 1 kois yain and 3 of mayim is good. But if it's real wine, you could have even more, as long as you didn't have 1 of wine and 6 of water. If it's so much diluted, shenois. Why it's a gemara in Avodah Zarah, which is basically it's a chiddush. Usually we say that by isur we count b'shishim. But by wine, we say no. that if you have yain nesach and it got diluted with water, for 1 cup if you have 1 cup, basically it's 16.5%. That if you have 1 cup of wine and it was diluted with 6 cups of water, ois yain nesach. It doesn't have the din of yain nesach anymore. Why it's a gemara in avodah zarah?
Why we have the concept of Yain Nesach? When it started and what? Anyone know?
Ah,
You
it's
shouldn't
big
marry
thing,
her. Don't sleep with a guy to drink because you might marry her. What did they say?
They said they don't want
So
to keep them.
nowadays it's
Want to
simple.
keep them far. Yeah, we want to keep Jews away from going.
That's past the store and highness.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Don't
wanna-
sit down to eat with them and drink with
Right.
them.
Okay, so bottom line, again, I just always touch. So the Goen says here that Chidush, then Shulchan Aruch, when we said 1 to 3 is about Shmonim, and the Ramah that said 1 to 6 is about wine.
That's it.
So really, if you look at the Gra, you could say that the Ramah and the Machaba are not arguing. When the Machaba said 1 to 3, he was talking about Shmonim, and the Ramah said 1 to 6 was talking about wine. Okay. Look at the Mishnah Berurah. He says, "Tivra go in beer. The Machaba bala hachmer b'yena shalanu loisagish yerak revius yain, and add another 3 cups of water. Vafile maderech b'samak masim is a gedoyla loipachas meravius yain bevade loimahane fil b'yena shalanu shalam shechazak. Meramo mashmer the man at korv shisha chalokim b'em ze tivra ogro lekoy al shmonim b'shmonim ajur b'shkas Machaba b'mayde b'yain anovim gufuk shemoz geim mayim that korv l'shisha shemyanim." The kids is saying that he's using really the Gra to say that Machaba and the Ramah are talking 2 different things. The one was talking about Shmonim, the one was talking about Yain. My computer decided to shtick up a little bit. I wanted to print out what the Alter Rebbe says. My Nias Daiti, the Alter Rebbe agrees with this, and I just couldn't put it on the page. Anyway, so I think the Alter Rebbe holds exactly the same, like the Gra, that when you're talking about Shmonim, it's 1 to 3, and when you're talking about yain, it's 1 to 6. Gewaldig.
But
Now,
when you mix a shmar, it doesn't become wine? You take
yeah,
the
then you
shmar
mix and you mix it in.
Less,
Mix it. So the
less.
shaila is what's the proportion? So by shmonim, it's one cup for 3 cups, 1 cup of wine to 3 of water, and 25%, and otherwise it's 16% if it's wine. Okay, good. Now, Acharoni Poiske is my name. Talking about Rebbe Tzion Abashol, I'm talking about Yosef, I'm talking about the Melchus Yitzchak, talking about the Malak Tesforim. Just an upshot of what they're thinking. I don't know why and how they got to this. A few nukudas. Number one, they're thinking like this. Now, once the Gra was saying that Shmorim is one thing and Yain is another thing, so when the Machaber said that Nida Mishayin and Bashir Shemoizgim Yain Shabaisei Mokim was talking only about Shmorim. But regular wine doesn't matter what the derech in that place is. You always can have 1 cup of wine up to 6 cups of water. That's such a wild chiddush, because if you look in the Gemara in Balbas and Rabbi Yoina says he's talking about wine, and he says even our wines are very weak, and you see the Gra is bringing talk about wine.
Even
So,
the
and-
Gemara
and-
said in wine itself.
And why it's he's bring the Gra is bringing a raya from Gemara. Even the Zman of Gemara, they had a certain type of weak wine that you can only put less water. So I don't understand where they started even. And then
You're looking at Dr. Welch.
Okay.
no, I'm saying they came to a chiddush and they said that when did the Machaba say that there's a din that Mishan and Bashir Shemoizgim Ba'isei Mokim is only the Gabi Shmorim, but the Gabi Yain doesn't matter. B'chol HaMakom is B'chol HaZmanim is always 1 to 6.
Because it's syrup.
But
I don't
look,
think
the Rebbeinu Yoina, which is the marker that says that you have to look b'chol moker in every place. What they're doing there was talking about wine, and the Gra that brings a raya from our Gemara to Rebbeinu Yoina is bringing Bereish Perek Ches the Shabbos Yain Asheroin Luchud. Yain is not talking about Shemorim, and you see that by Yain you have to look at some wines are weaker, and you can only put in less water.
What the was buying it's a Muslim, it's a good one. If those gonna buy it, it's
I'm just talking about their chiddush. They said a chiddush. Now that the Gra told me that wine has one din and Shmonim is another din, so when did the Machaber say that every generation is different as Shmonim? But by wine, always 1 to 6 is good. Up to 1 to 6 is
where
good.
they get the chiddush from. How does it say it?
So they go, oh no, they put 6 and 3 together. They said, oh, because now that the Machaber was only talking about Shmonim, so about Shmonim is where he said, "V'nir shemishanim b'shir shemoizgin yayin zabois l'makim." But the Goa said, "V'lvad shelo yiyah yayin in echem shisha b'mayim." Over there, he didn't say that it's the shir shemoizgin yayin b'ois l'makim. I say, how could you say such a narishkeit? The Grove brings Rabbeinu Yoin, and he brings a raya from the Gemara, and the Gemara is talking about yayin. Reish Perek Ches the Shabbos yayin asheroini lechud. So how can you say such a narishkeit? And then there was another discussion. In the Minchas Yitzchak said that the Machaber and the Ramah are saying the same thing. Rabbi Vad Yosef said no. Then he said, look, the Machaber is talking about wine. Why is he talking about wine? Look at the words. He says, "Aval yenis shalonu she'ena chazakim kol kach afil ramat losa v'osa arba ena mavarach lo beri pregofen v'nida shemishanim b'shir shemoizgim yain shebois emokim." He said that my Minchas Yitzchak was a moritz. He didn't know how to read the words. And look at the words. V'nida shemishanim b'shir shemoizgim yain shebois emokim. So I was showing it today to my brother, and he said, he has a very good teretz. He said, "There's no shear that we usually mix shmorim, and there's no shear of how much you go. A woman will ask her for how much shmorim do you mix with water? No one mixes shmorim and water. It's just the winemaker. He runs out of wine.
Cheap,
he gets a little cheap, and there's no thing. What's the derech in this country? How much do you mix shmorim with water?
The opposite is Shmonim is killing the wine.
Yeah, if you're supposed to throw it in the garbage, shmorim.
When people buy
You're
wine,
desperate
that's
and you want a little bit. So Shaila is okay. So when you're desperate and you want to mix water and shmorim, so you can't ask. So what's the derech that people do when they get desperate? When they get desperate, they get desperate. So he's saying the shit is whatever it is. The shir shemoizgin yain should be oisay market. So that's what the Peter Shamilas in the Machaber. Could be the Machaber is really talking about shmorim. But the truth is that it's just an exercise in the mind. That because the Machaber was not Machalak, probably he holds that there's no difference between Shmorim and Yain. So I think Rabbi Vad Yosef is right. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's not like the Minchas Yitzchak, unless you can't learn in Lashon Kodesh. But I think ultimately Rabbi Vad Yosef is right. The Machaber wasn't Machalak, so probably he held by Shmorim, by Yain is the same thing, is 1 to 3. Elamai, in the Ramah you could say Shmorim is 1 to 3, and wine is 1 to 6. Okay. So let me summarize. So Amela, I think, but for sure that also the Ramah holds that Yemeshar b'shir shemoizgim yayin shabois hamokim. So you have to look at every place. What's the shear that the moizig yayin ba'is hamokim? Okay. So therefore, I'm thinking that the difference between the Machaber and Ramah is not so far. When it's talking about shmorim, everyone agrees it's 1 to 3. When it's talking about wine, it's a machloikis maybe. The Machaber didn't say otherwise. Probably he thinks it's 1 to 3 wine also. And the Ramah brings a raya from Yain Nesach from Masechta Avodah Zarah. No, that wine is a little better than shmorim. So it's not 1 to 3. It's 1 to 6.
The shmorim were woman baking. It's a different.
No, it's a different thing. We're talking about shmorim from Yain.
I'm saying there you buy 2 ounces.
Right. Okay, so bottom line again. If it's shmorim, it's 1 to 3. Everyone agrees. If it's wine, according to Machaber, it's 1 to 3. According to Ramah, it's 1 to 6. Okay. So now, but everyone agrees that you have to go with the shir shemoizgim yain sheba oisei makim. La'niyas da'iti, which I think is a dava pashut. You have to look at every wine as a different thing. Grape juice is one thing, and maybe even could say difference between different types of grape juice: white wine, red wine, champagne. It's all different.
They have light grape juice. How to make that?
More water.
One Grape juice, no sugar. There's so many of the, how they can do it.
Light, the more water, the more light it is.
So that's why.
No sugar means that they're not spilling in sugar. Obviously, it's not sugar. It's sweet. There's natural sugar.
My wife said, you have to buy grape juice, no sugar for Pesach. I said,
That's all the same thing. That they don't add sugar.
Cook it off.
Nah, there's somebody put a stuff. There's
They're not gonna waste their money.
no one's adding sugar or subtracting sugar. They just add it to the sticker.
But they write down, no sugar.
The light is true. They put in more water. They make it light. That's true. When they write the grape juice is light, that you could trust them. They
33
added
grams of sugar in a
Huh?
cup. There's 33 grams of sugar in a cup of Cadam grape juice. It's unbelievable.
right,
I feel like sometimes so nauseous from them.
right. But it's natural sugar.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
from the grapes.
Yeah.
They didn't add
Sugar
sugar.
cooked off the water, so or
But when they write
Right,
no sugar, yes, sure, it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
right,
So
right.
it's better to drink light grape juice than.
No, what do you need to buy light grape juice? You could buy regular grape juice and add
It's
water.
different taste. I drank it.
Yeah, if you add water, it's a different taste.
I just saw.
No, obviously they mix it.
Yeah.
So they mix it and it
They
sits
pound it
together.
together.
So whatever. So it's a little different. Oh, so this, yeah. So now, so bottom line is, I think it's totally in the minig of the place. So what's the minig? So you can't add. So a person's going to say, if you add grape juice, could you add water? You can't, because the company already put as much water as you could. If they have a hechsher, they ask what's the maximum water. They don't ask when they call the OU. They don't ask Rabbi Elephant, what's the minimum we could put? Because we want people to be able to put still water later and make hagofen. No, they ask what's the maximum we want to have. Okay, but what's the maximum amount of water we could put? Then, right? So he already told them what's the maximum amount of water they could put. Trust me, they put the maximum. Hopefully, they didn't trick the mashgiach and put more, but they didn't put less. So how could you add water? You can't. You can't add. You can't add any water. You can't. You can't do something. Even wines. So some wines they do add water in the process of making it. So, but they don't add. It's not like grape juice. They put so much. They put a little bit of water, but you don't know how much water they put. You don't know how much water. So most poskim say the beginning of Simon H base. He says yain and sheikha. You go with the roiv. Roiv is yain. It's yain. Roiv is sheikha. Sheikha. But there is a chiddush from the Oilas Talmud. He says that could be in a place where the mei sheikha fort helps the alcohol. If you put water, even a drop of water will ruin the wine. In a place where it's not the minik, and he leaves it with a tzarachim. So
beer has a different. It would be you can add water to beer and it wouldn't ruin it.
No, you can add beer to wine,
Oh, beer
and
to
then we
wine.
say if the roiv is wine, is a din of wine. If the roiv is beer, is a beer. So some achronim say, oh, so water is the same thing. So the Eilis Talmud say, I'm not sure. And the Eliyah said, I'm not sure. Could be in a place where the derech is not to add water to wine, and you added even a little bit of water, you ruined the wine.
Yeah, sure.
And he leaves it with a tzarechim. So lechatchila, I say you shouldn't add any wine. I mean, take a drop of what the minig is fine. I'm not talking about a drop of water. Don't worry about that drop of water.
People
talking about-
try to make it.
I'm
less.
talking about if you like we used to have over here someone in basement on Chemenu. He was very medayik that always it should spill over. So what's if there's 4 ounces of wine and he would put another 3 ounces of seltzer? He says roiv is the wine. The ikar is it should spill. It's not true. Spill shmil. It's very nice. It's a simon brocha. But shefa, it's very nice. But
Shefa,
but it's a chef of water right now because you don't know how much water the company put. You don't know how much water the company put. You don't know. Now, does it Tzemach Tzedek says that, by the way, 2 things in Tzemach Tzedek. Number 1, we said that maybe Takat is Machlokes Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, that according to Machab is 1 to 3, and according to the Ramah is 1 to 6. In Alter Rebbe Paskins, Ashkenazim 1 to 6, and Tzemach Tzedek says Chatchila Shuvei Machmer 1 to 3. Lachatchila Shuvei Machmer 1 to 3. Number 1. Number 2, he has an interesting thing. He says that he's machir a machloikis that water that there are poskim that hold that water is terrible for wine. Water is terrible for wine. Elamai, if the derech is that we mix, okay, so that's the derech. But so now that the company already mixed, they already so they did. So you don't know how much you don't know how much they mixed. So how could you add? How could you add right now? How could you don't know what's the amount that's going to ruin it. That's going to ruin it. You don't know what's the amount that's going to ruin
The
it.
winemaker has an idea, hopefully.
He knows.
Right.
He knows the shear, but you don't know. So again, like I said, if you put a trap off, it's hard to imagine. But if you start putting 2-3 ounces of water in your cup, and you have no idea what kedem is doing, like those cheap wines, they mix water in it. There's no shadow. All these cheap wines have water in it, but what's the ratio? If you call kedem, they're not going to tell you what the ratio is. Even if you call the Hersher company, I love Dafka, they're going to tell you that these are things that belong, it's private business to Kedem. So I don't know if they'll tell you what's the thing. So how could you add water to it? How could you add water? You don't know. So the derech, whatever the derech is, they already added. And now that you're adding more, so you might be roiv mayim now. You say, oh, now you're going to want to make a pilpul and say, I only put in 2 ounces, and you have to give me a discount from 2 sides. Take roiv mayim over here, but most of that is already the derech. So I don't know if you can make such.
You're going to come to a conclusion that you could drink wine.
You water, and you exactly. Soon you're going to get to the conclusion you can drink water. It makes.
For you, it's wine.
That's the famous
Huh?
story. Does not affect the pizza shaila because they put the apple juice inside the pizza to make it mazonas, and the higher it's the whole water.
Right, that's a force. Those
No,
I know. I hold mazonas by those pizza shops that put milk. They put milk, and the milk is talking not with water. Milk is milk.
If the milk is milk, like it's not really chocolate.
No, like I said, no. The milk today, milk became lately a little more expensive. Milk
And they
is.
also mix a lot of water.
Huh? Nah, they don't.
They can't make money otherwise.
Nah, today I went with my kids to see near Etzion how much milk a cow gives. Okay, them is granted in Eretz Yisrael, the cows,
Number 1 in the world.
they milk, number 1 is unbelievable. It's
Computerized.
Unbelievable.
Computerized.
They figured out, it's
Totally
computerized,
Totally
and you see
You need to get the maximum out per cow.
max.
if the cow give like few ounces less, the computer said then something wrong with the
but
cow.
They track every cow, they know how
Is the
much cow.
quality of the milk there just as good or better than?
Better.
I would say better. I don't know. I like these days.
Some people, people talk about Chavis Yisrael milk always goes off faster. Once I spoke to a guy in Mashgiach in a milk place, and he said because Chavis Yisrael is more expensive because they have to hire Mashgiach and whatever. So his theory is why Chavis Yisrael milk. It's not true for all Chavis Yisrael milks, what I've read. But his theory was that they squeeze out all the extra and they're getting, some pseula's not the best.
Nah,
That was his theory.
can't be. The cow.
He's saying that
The
they get a lot
cow,
of
they put-
excess they're getting.
I'm just thinking.
or
I'm just
things
saying.
that are
I
not-
saw how they
There's
looked.
no-
I split
There's not the last drop.
Right.
the cow kicks the.
Right.
They put 4 suction cups up, and when the cow it feels that it gave enough milk, it kicks with its foot, kicks the thing off,
You can't get more.
and give ending. It's not up to the guy to decide. The cow decides when to kick the thing off.
Milk it twice a day, and so
3 times a day.
3 times, I think.
Clockwise,
Oh,
exactly.
but they figured out such a system in Israel. It's
Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable.
I saw in a place
gallon
where they do it for.
I know a lot.
what is it?
They were saying the number. My kids asked. I was like a lot of milk.
Really,
It's like a few cases it comes out of the cow.
Easy.
Yeah.
30 gallons.
There's
30 gallons.
you know what? You could
Wow.
Google it tonight. And how would the average Israeli cow? How much milk they give a day? They give a lot of milk.
Eric's on the Davash.
That is of a yeah.
And a lot of farmers from Israel, they go to Brazil and other places
And then I get
and make
hormones.
this and teach the people.
They
how
teach
to-
them there how to do
And they
it.
make big money, really big.
Right.
Hormones,
Back
nothing.
to the story.
I don't think so. I don't know. I think it's more techniques. They
Feeding techniques.
I'll tell you what I see from my eyes. because I took my kids a few years ago to the Amish town, and everything is so yokelish. They take them. It's very efficient. They have them sitting there and eating and eating and eating. The food is and then they sit there in the blotte and they eat. And then and then the pen opens up. There's very little that people that they have it all like figured out. And there's nice fans. The fans are there not only to make them comfortable, because the guy was explaining to the children that when it gets too hot, the cows are producing less milk. In the summer, he's saying the average cow is giving 38 something, 38 and in this winter 40 gallons, not gallons or something. Liters. Yeah, in Israel liters. Yeah. But 30, he said in the summer they're giving 38 liters, in the winter they said average, a day per cow. Yeah, it's a huge amount. Yeah, I'm telling you, they take a lot of milk. But I think it's more techniques. They have them, because I see the way it's in Pennsylvania. They take the cows out to the field, and the cow comes back, and they're busy. The cow spent an hour walking to get to the hay, then it ate. Has spent an hour exercising.
It uses
right. These Israeli cows don't move more than 5 steps. They put the food right around. And they also don't use up a lot of land that way, because Israel doesn't have a lot of land.
What kind of food they put for them to produce milk?
Hey, what do you mean? Israel produces hay all over the place.
Tarovet is
Yeah.
no. They give in the hay. They mix something that make more milk.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, obviously, they put in stuff.
It's kind of a farm, 100%.
The great
Not
drinking
really.
water.
They have a lot of
Uncle Yossi Goldstein
Yeah.
walk around with a shopping cart to every classroom and sell the records or tapes. His stories on. One of the stories was that the king was coming into the city, the town.
And the milk and the wine and the water.
He said everyone should pour in a bottle of wine, the big barrel. So the king opens the thing, he'll get about a thing of wine. So one Getzel, the baker, said, well, I'm just going to put water in my thing, in my covered flask. No one will know. And he poured from his flask in there. And Moshe, the candlestick maker, said he's going to also pour water in. No one will know from 1,000 people. Then the king came, he turned on the thing, and now came water.
Yeah.
Remember?
I'm sure I remember that story.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's summarize. Bottom line is, you could hardly ever monashech. You shouldn't be adding water to your wine monashech. If the derech isn't that souk to add, the company already added. And to start making funny calculations to say, well, I only put 2-3 ounces, and up to 2-3 ounces that I put, that's the derech. So you're going to tell me that, but now it's the roiv mine. Again, there's linen basaroiv, so it's not the derech. And if taka, it's a quality wine, and it's be'emes not the derech, so then it's nish gefährlich, because usually you go basaroiv. Elamai doilas, Talmud says that maybe water is so bad for wine that even a little bit will ruin it. But most achronim are not makabelim. So where you're most allowed to expensive wine, which you really don't want at that point, because if you spent, Oirach brought you, or you went yourself and you bought $30-40 a bottle of wine, you don't want to add water to it. Those wines, dafki, you can add a little bit of water. Agam the oilas, Talmud said, sorechiyun, even maybe a little bit is makalkal. But most places can disagree. Say we go basaroy. But the cheap wines or the grape juice, don't worry. The company's already put in. They put enough. So you can't put any more. You can't put any more. So therefore, I said with this before. I said with grape juice, I think they already put the derech, and they put plenty already. So if you put seltzer and grape juice, you can make shahakwa. Don't worry about it. As soon as you're mixing grape juice and seltzer, you can make shahakwa. And with cheap wine, don't mix in water. And expensive wine, and a cheap wine, not kedai to mix in. And expensive, you probably don't want to mix in. So then
I never saw somebody put seltzer and wine and make with pegos. I never.
Because
Always Yaakov.
like a monosher, like I said,
It's
if
good.
it's a very
It's okay.
expensive wine, no one's gonna mix
And
it.
these
So
people do it, people that drink it, they do it with grape juice here, not even.
A
wine.
grape juice. Well, the grape juice, don't worry, the company should get like plenty water, so
No,
don't,
I'm saying if somebody want to drink seltzer, it will grape juice, not even wine, doesn't want
Right.
to waste the wine.
right.
Either for it, just change it to the what the value says Mahalo.
No,
So if you go to
That's
a
what
place,
it is,
be
like
careful not to drink the real wine. Grape juice.
no, because they
Oh,
say,
yeah.
they say it's the derech. And I say, "Mish gefährlich." I mean, Mr. Welch, where it does less, he puts 15, they put 70.
Welch is all you, no?
I think now Welch, I never tasted
think
Welch,
so, yeah.
but,
So
Sometimes.
maybe something
So-
changed. I'm just telling you what
Sometimes.
Rev Yitzchak Yosef writes here. It's a sefer he published not long ago. He says, "Kizela Milo Mishloishim Shona Nemar Leli de Odem Nemer Shayena Shel Badat Zeda Charedis Yeshom Metro Lish 17% Yain. Hayom Osifu B'Ma'at." That's what he writes. That's the information I have.
I just.
It's a falsche Welt.
I just saw a wine that has only 4% alcohol. And it's. You can make both different.
one over here. That one.
Yeah, the not
We have to, we have to.
It was the one they figured out over here. They make 3.5%.
It's still cool wine.
Go check.
Yeah.
it.
A green one.
It's okay.
Verbrengen, that's 3.5? No, I think Verbrengen is 5.
He probably snuck out.
Yeah.
So that's why we didn't know. It often says constant, certain amount of concentration.
Yeah.
You talk
Depending on
about that,
concept,
like how much
it's,
is allowed, once it's mixed into a concentrator, you're allowed to put back more water than normal? You can tell me.
Koyach, Rabbi, koyach.